The judge in Blake Lively's case just slapped down their psychopathic request.
And the court said no.
Breaking news, Justin Baldoni just got a big win, meaning Blake Lively got a big loss. Are her lawyers dumb? Is this truly a win for Justin and a loss for Blake?
Absolutely a win for Justin, and you're absolutely right, Andy, in your interpretation of the document. What they've said is basically, they told you to go, you have to go meet and confer and see if you can come up with more narrow requests.
It's a lot of this sort of like Blake complaining that they're evading the privacy, they're doing all this, but then meanwhile, right, she's on Saturday Night Live with Ryan making jokes, hitting back. I mean, is it not a little hypocritical? Is this a bad look of her if she's trying to tell the courts that we should stop talking about this?
Welcome back, everyone. Before we dive into today's headline-grabbing courtroom clash, make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss the biggest stories shaping Hollywood right now. Now let's get into it. The spotlight has suddenly shifted onto Blake Lively, a star long admired for her polished image and picture-perfect career. But behind the red carpets and blockbuster roles, she's now facing a high-profile legal battle that has stunned both fans and industry insiders. We're talking about lawsuits, serious allegations, and a courtroom twist that few could have predicted. Her carefully crafted reputation is under real pressure, and the drama isn't confined to her alone. Ryan Reynolds, her husband and one of Hollywood's most beloved figures, has been pulled into the narrative, making this case even harder for the public to ignore. This isn't just another Hollywood scandal, it's a story with the power to ripple across the entertainment world. How did things spiral so quickly for Blake? And could a single court ruling alter the trajectory of her career forever? Stick with us, we're breaking it down step by step.
Apart. She's destroying her cred. Right.
2025. The atmosphere in court was electric as Blake's legal team, led by powerhouse attorney Mail GSK, launched a bold counterstrike. They petitioned for a protective order, aiming to restrict public access to several explosive pieces of evidence. According to them, the materials involved private conversations between Blake and some of Hollywood's most influential figures, conversations they claimed could unfairly drag outsiders into the storm and ignite reckless media speculation. But not everyone is convinced. Critics argue that this wasn't about protecting others at all, it was about shielding Blake from further damage. The debate has only fueled more rumors, with whispers spreading about her alleged cutthroat behavior behind the scenes. And as those stories circulate, the court of public opinion is becoming just as fierce as the one inside the courthouse.
And determine the truth for themselves.
The team wasted no time making their stance clear. They pushed back hard against Blake Lively's attempt to tighten restrictions, arguing that the existing protective order was already more than enough. In their view, celebrity status shouldn't grant anyone extra layers of privacy or protection. Their message was simple: transparency is not optional. To them, the only way to preserve integrity in this trial is to keep the process wide open, free from secret negotiations or hidden evidence. And their position isn't an isolated one. Justin Bieber's lead attorney has echoed that same point from the very beginning, insisting that every piece of information should be laid out for the public to scrutinize. That united front has put mounting pressure on Blake's team, signaling that this fight isn't just about the law, it's about public trust, fairness, and whether Hollywood's elite should play by the same rules as everyone else.
I see a bully a bully attacking somebody. The bully being Blake Lively and our powerful lawyers. And thank goodness Justin's got support to be able to...
No backroom maneuvers, that was the unmistakable message the court wanted to send. But the atmosphere shifted dramatically when Judge Louis Lyman took command of the proceedings. Reports from inside the courtroom described the judge delivering a blistering rebuke to Blake Lively's legal team, a response so sharp it rippled through the gallery. Blake, who appeared to arrive prepared for a decisive strike against Justin Baldwin, was visibly shaken. Witnesses say the judge's words landed with crushing weight, instantly dismantling her team's confidence. Then came the moment that no one expected. Blake herself reportedly broke down in front of the court. What some described as a total emotional collapse left her attorneys looking rattled and unprepared, their earlier confidence evaporating in seconds. The legal team had entered the hearing certain they were holding evidence strong enough to tilt the case in their favor. But Judge Lyman saw right through the motion and shut it down with remarkable force. Court observers even claim he went so far as to call their strategy outrageous and misguided, language that left the entire room stunned. And just when it seemed the drama had peaked, The judge dropped a revelation that instantly made headlines. On Thursday, March 13, 2025, the court will open its doors to the public in an unprecedented way by broadcasting a live audio feed of the next session. For the first time, the world won't just be reading about the fireworks inside this case, they'll be listening to them in real time, as Hollywood's legal spectacle unfolds step by step.
He has built his brand and is known for supporting women, believing women. So why in this case should people not believe Blake Lively?
I'm not asking anyone to not believe anyone. I am more than willing to take every single text message that exists out there, lay them out, put them on a website for the world to see, have them see the truth and determine the truth for
rehearsed sound bites, and behind-the-scenes spin is over. This time, the public will hear the proceedings as they happen uncut, unfiltered, and impossible to reframe. Whatever is said in that courtroom on Thursday will echo far beyond those walls, shaping public perception in real time. For Blake, it's a stunning reversal. Just weeks ago she seemed to hold the upper hand, issuing bold subpoenas, filing aggressive motions, and pressing for restrictions as if she were directing the pace of the trial. But now, her strategy has backfired, and the unraveling has been swifter than anyone predicted. The confidence she carried into court has been stripped away, leaving only the hard reality of what's ahead. And then there's Ryan Reynolds. His role in this drama is growing more complicated by the day. Until recently, he appeared every bit the steadfast partner, accompanying Blake at high-profile events like the glittering SNL 50th anniversary celebration, smiling for cameras as if nothing were amiss. But that picture of composure is starting to crack under the weight of the legal spotlight. Now both find themselves under harsher scrutiny than ever before. The stakes aren't just personal, they're professional, financial, and reputational. With the world listening in, neither Blake nor Ryan can afford a single misstep. What happens next could redefine not just their careers, but their legacy in Hollywood itself.
Lawyers are stupid. It's like he's like being nice here. He's like, your lawyers are really.
Here's where things get complicated. Why does it seem like Ryan Reynolds isn't just standing behind Blake Lively, but actually echoing her every controversial move? It's not the behavior of someone quietly offering support, it feels more like he's actively following the same playbook. Look closer at the pattern, his public appearances, his carefully timed statements, even the way he's positioned himself alongside her in key moments. None of it feels accidental. The coordination is almost too precise, raising the question, are these coincidences, or calculated choices? Critics are beginning to wonder whether Ryan is more than just collateral in this legal storm. Could he be entangled in the very strategies now under scrutiny? The possibility adds another layer of intrigue to a case that's already gripping Hollywood, and it raises a bigger question. How deep does his involvement really go?
Baldoni universe, a judge is allowing the internet to join court, not entirely for the whole court case, but for this Thursday, we'll be sharing live audio, not video, just audio of what goes.
It turns out Blake Lively isn't the only one accused of maneuvering behind the scenes to drag out this legal fight. Her husband, Ryan Reynolds, is now being pulled into the spotlight as well. According to insiders, he hasn't merely been a supportive partner, he's allegedly been executing parts of Blake's strategy step by step, moving in lockstep with her approach to the case. But here's where the loyalty backfired. By mirroring Blake's tactics so closely, Ryan has opened himself up to direct consequences. Justin Baldwin's legal team wasted no time capitalizing on that, filing fresh papers that place Ryan at the center of the conflict. Yes, you heard that right, another lawsuit has landed, and this time Ryan Reynolds himself is a named target. No longer just the loyal spouse watching from the sidelines, he now finds himself an active participant in a courtroom war that seems to expand by the day. With both Reynolds and Lively in the crosshairs, the stakes have officially doubled, and the legal battle just became far more explosive.
Who else has a question?
I have a question.
Oh, hey, Ryan Reynolds.
Hi.
Hey. Ryan Reynolds, how's it going?
Great. Why? What have you heard?
With the California Civil Rights Department claiming she had endured intense emotional distress. At the center of her allegations were some of the biggest names tied to the project. Lively accused fellow actor Justin Baldwin, along with several co-stars, of crossing serious lines, charges that included sexual harassment. But she didn't stop there. According to her complaint, the group was also secretly coordinating with B's production company, allegedly working behind closed doors to tarnish her public image and derail her career. It was a bold move that immediately ignited controversy. By putting such explosive claims on record, Blake shifted the entire dispute from whispers in Hollywood circles to a high-stakes legal battle now unfolding in full public view.
Actor-director Justin Baldoni is now suing his former co-star Blake Lively and her husband Ryan Reynolds, seeking more than $400 million in damages, accusing them of defamation and extortion
around her. At the top of the list, a guarantee of professional conduct and a zero-tolerance policy toward inappropriate behavior. She called for an immediate ban on explicit videos or images of women being shown in her presence, demanded an end to crude conversations about sexual exploits on set, and insisted that no one make offhand remarks about the bodies of cast or crew members. Lively also addressed another sensitive point, comments about her own weight, which she ordered to be left out of all discussions. And perhaps most personal of all, she made it clear that references to her late father were off-limits entirely. But here's where things took a dramatic turn. Despite raising these deeply personal and professional concerns, Lively didn't immediately file a lawsuit against Justin Baldwin. That legal strike came later, and only after Baldwin himself sued the New York Times for publishing details pulled directly from her original complaint. In other words, what began as a list of boundaries in a tense meeting quickly escalated into the legal showdown now dominating headlines.
Blake Lively and her actor husband Ryan Reynolds want to keep their messages with seemingly their A-list friends out of the hands of the public.
Justin Baldoni is not paying his legal bills.
To her decision to speak up about the alleged harassment and misconduct she, and, reportedly, others had endured on set. And if anyone thought Ryan Reynolds was keeping his distance, the reports tell a different story. He wasn't just in the background, he was there in the room during that crucial meeting, seated beside Blake, surrounded by co-stars and production staff. Which raises an uncomfortable question. Was Ryan quietly supporting his wife from the sidelines, or was he actively involved in shaping the strategy from the start? What's clear is this case is no longer just about Blake. The spotlight has widened, and it's pulling in everyone within reach. From that moment forward, the courtroom transformed into something far bigger than a standard lawsuit. It became a headline-grabbing clash, Justin Baldwin versus Blake Lively, with Ryan Reynolds now firmly caught in the middle. What began as a high-stakes legal dispute has since spiraled into all-out courtroom warfare. Allegations of aggressive tactics, power plays, and escalating maneuvers have turned the case into a volatile spectacle, messier, louder, and far more unpredictable than anyone in Hollywood could have imagined.
There was a feud between the two, and that they positively hated one another because they were promoting this film and these articles started leaking, really initially not in Justin's favor at first, basically saying that he had been inappropriate on TMZ, saying that he asked her about her weight and because he had to lift her for a scene.
Compared to Blake Lively's latest demand, it was nothing short of staggering. Court filings reveal her legal team pushed for access to more than 2.5 years of Justin Baldwin's personal phone records. And this wasn't a narrow request for call logs. They wanted everything: text messages, voice calls, even confidential notes tied to his medical visits. The request went even further, seeking GPS tracking data that would pinpoint Baldwin's every move during that entire span of time. To many observers, it stopped resembling a legitimate legal tactic and instead looked alarmingly invasive, like something out of a surveillance operation rather than a civil case. The question became obvious: what exactly was Blake hoping to uncover with such sweeping access? Whatever her intentions, the court wasn't having it. Judge Lewis Lyman immediately shot down the request, openly expressing disbelief at the scope of what her team was demanding. In his courtroom, there was no mistaking the message: star power doesn't rewrite the rules, and the judge had another reason to deny it: the timeline simply didn't add up. Even if Blake's allegations carried weight, the supposed smear campaign against her only began to surface around August of 2024. At most, records from early that year might have been relevant. But her team reached far beyond that window, asking for personal data stretching back years before the conflict even began. In the end, the demand not only failed but also backfired. painting Blake's case as overreaching and leaving the impression that she was attempting to pry into Baldwin's private life far beyond what the law could justify. According to those inside the courtroom, Blake Lively was visibly unraveling. Her posture stiffened, her whispers to her attorneys grew frantic, and the calm confidence she carried into the hearing seemed to evaporate in real time. Witnesses said she looked terrified, nearly trembling, as it dawned on her that her sweeping subpoena request was about to be dismantled in front of everyone. And then came the blow. Judge Lewis Lyman issued his ruling, striking down her demands with finality. The reaction? Total shock. For Blake, it was the moment her carefully crafted legal strategy collapsed, and a harsh reality check that many say was long overdue. What had been propped up by ego and theatrics came crashing down like a house of cards, but instead of accepting the loss with grace, her team moved quickly into spin mode. They exited the courtroom with heads high, scrambling to reshape the narrative, presenting the defeat as though it were all part of a broader plan. Blake herself leaned on the oldest trick in the book, pivot to the media, framing the outcome as a strategic victory rather than a humiliating setback. The problem? The truth has a way of cutting through spin. And with a live audio feed on the way, the public will soon hear for themselves just how one-sided that ruling really was. To make matters worse, Judge Lyman didn't stop at shutting her down, he went further. He turned Blake's own words against her, pointing out contradictions in her filings so glaring that her entire argument unraveled on the spot. Imagine believing you have airtight demands, only to have them shredded line by line using your own statements as evidence. And where was Ryan Reynolds through it all? The man once seen at her side during every major appearance was nowhere in sight. No reassuring hand, no quick remark, no show of solidarity, just silence. A silence that, in this case, may have spoken louder than anything else. Seats as if Ryan Reynolds vanished into thin air. While Blake Lively faced the fallout inside the courtroom, he was nowhere to be found. Maybe he's off filming, maybe he chose to step back from the wreckage, but either way, his absence has become impossible to ignore. And frankly, who could blame him for distancing himself from the chaos? But here's the twist. Even after being publicly embarrassed in front of Judge Lewis Lyman, Blake's legal team didn't slow down. Instead, they doubled down. More subpoenas, more filings, more desperate motions, each one appearing less like strategy and more like a frantic attempt to regain control. Observers said it looked less like a fight for justice and more like legal theater, with her attorneys tossing paperwork like confetti, hoping anything would stick. Judge Lyman, however, wasn't swayed. He drew a firm line, reminding everyone that ego doesn't win cases, and celebrity clout carries no weight in his courtroom. What mattered were the facts, and Blake's case was rapidly running out of them. The lesson is a hard one. Fame doesn't bend the rules of due process. Yet Blake seemed convinced that her name and her A-list status would tip the scales. Instead, her aggressive tactics have backfired, pulling Ryan into the fallout as his own reputation takes a hit alongside hers. The center of it all was one outrageous demand, the belief that she could pry open every detail of Justin Baldwin's private life. 2.5 years worth of calls, messages, GPS locations, even medical records. All of it, presented as a pursuit of justice. But in reality, it's become a glaring symbol of how overreach and ego can sink even the most powerful star when the courtroom lights turn on. Let's be clear, this was never about fairness. It was about control. Blake Lively's legal team didn't just want evidence, they wanted everything. Where Justin Baldwin went, who he met with, what he said, and yes, even personal details as trivial as his daily routines. It read less like a civil lawsuit and more like a sweeping surveillance operation. The demands were so excessive, it was as if Blake believed she was running a federal investigation rather than pursuing a claim in state court. And then came the humiliation. Judge Lewis Lyman granted them something, but nowhere near what they asked for. Instead of 2.5 years of Baldwin's private data, the court allowed access to only 4 months, August through December of 2024. And many argued even that was generous. The results? Nothing. No smoking gun. No bombshell evidence, just empty pages. Because when the legal system is twisted into a tool for vendettas rather than truth, the only person exposed is the one misusing it. That's exactly what happened here. Instead of toppling Justin Baldwin, Blake ended up putting her own desperation, ego, and questionable judgment on full display for the world to see. And here's the twist. At this stage, the case has stopped being about Baldwin at all. The spotlight has shifted entirely. The real story is Blake Lively, how she fought to control the narrative, painted herself as the victim, and then watched the truth dismantle that image in real time. Why did everything collapse so quickly? Because of one revelation no one saw coming. A leaked recording straight from Ari Emanuel, the powerhouse CEO of WME, also known as Endeavor Group Holdings. And what it revealed has been described as the biggest Hollywood cover-up of the year. The tape suggests Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds weren't innocent bystanders as Baldwin's career unraveled, they were orchestrators. Not only did they know what was happening, but evidence points to them pulling the strings from behind the scenes. With his future had ridiculed him while orchestrating his downfall. And with that, Blake Lively's carefully crafted narrative collapsed. The world no longer saw her as the wronged starlet. The evidence painted her and Ryan not as victims, but as the architects of the entire scheme. This is no longer speculation, rumor, or whispered gossip, it's documented, it's recorded, and it's spreading fast. The case against her is now layered with damning proof, insider testimony, court rulings, leaked tapes, and receipts from every corner of the industry. Years of rumors about her behind-the-scenes conduct, once dismissed as idle chatter, now look eerily accurate. The mask has slipped, and the real Blake Lively has stepped into the spotlight. The final nail in the coffin? The recording itself. Ari Emanuel, arguably the most powerful agent in Hollywood, captured on audio admitting he blacklisted Justin Baldwin at Blake and Ryan's request. That is no longer conjecture. That is a confession. And just when it seemed like this evidence might quietly disappear, another twist hit. The original recording vanished, but a journalist who had been in the room released their own copy. The truth, this time, couldn't be buried. So how did Blake respond? By going into full-blown panic mode. Her team scrambled into damage control, but by then, the tidal wave of exposure had already crashed down. Because this is only the beginning. The cracks are widening, the leaks keep coming, and Blake Lively's empire of carefully managed image is crumbling in real time. With Ryan Reynolds dragged into the fire beside her, Hollywood's golden couple now finds themselves painted as the masterminds of one of the ugliest industry takedowns in recent memory. Nick Shapiro might know how to spin headlines, but this isn't Washington, D.C., it's the internet age. Once the receipts are out, there's no burying them, no matter how many operatives you bring in. Every desperate attempt to reframe the narrative only exposes the rot further. Blake thought she was fighting a smear campaign. But the reality? She built one, and now she's choking on it. The judge dismantled her legal theatrics. The audio leaks shattered her victim narrative. And her own panic hires have confirmed the scale of this crisis. This isn't about winning a case anymore. This is about survival. And the court of public opinion is ruthless. One thing's for sure, the days of polished perfection are over. The reckoning has begun, and it's not stopping with Blake. Stay tuned. Because if you thought this saga had peaked, you haven't seen anything yet.